Hello, everybody, and welcome to Successful Migrations to Oracle Fusion Cloud, starting with the right data loading strategy. So I'm Stephanie, and I'll be moderating today's session. And like I said, I'm just going to go over a couple of things quickly before I pass it off to Steve Dozier and David Wright. So everyone will receive today's recording by the end of the week, so please keep a lookout for that. And then if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please add them into the Q&A box down below, and we will save them for the end at our Q&A portion, just to allow everybody to hear the whole presentation in case they need to hop off at the end. But let's get started. So first, I am going to pass it off to our Director of Business Development and Partnerships here at More4Apps, Steve Dozier. Steve?
Hello, everybody. Thanks again for attending and welcome. The purpose of this whole webinar is just to help you understand what your data loading options are for Oracle Cloud ERP. The reason is so you can select the right tool for the right job and increase the project success. A little bit of facts about More4Apps. More4Apps has approximately 500 clients. We have about 40,000 users worldwide. We've been in business over 25 years. And when we talk to our clients, we've done surveys and polls of our clients, one of the top things that they tell us is they expect their system integrator and Oracle partner to make recommendations for the right ERP supporting tools so that they can ensure project success beyond go live. It's great when the SI is there supporting the implementation and helping along. But once the SI leaves and the client's on their own, sometimes they're left with subpar tools or subpar methodologies that they wish they would have known about. So one thing that they've mentioned to us is, could you please talk to SIs about recommending third-party tools and other tools besides Oracle tools? Sometimes the right solution are the Oracle tools, but not always. In addition, many of our SIs try to program or develop custom solutions, which isn't always the right answer either because they need to be supported. And if the SI isn't around or something breaks, it can cause problems for the client. So to take us through our options, I'd like to introduce David Wright, my colleague. He's a director with More4Apps. He's been with the organization since 2005. Prior to that, he was an ERP consultant for over 10 years in Europe, the United States, and New Zealand. And he's been developing data loaders for over 20 years. So he's got a wealth of experience in both the EBS world, e-business suite, as well as the cloud ERP world. So David, welcome.
Thanks so much, Steve. And hi, everybody. So today, just following on from what Steve said, we're really just trying to say use the right tool for the right job. And I wanted to start with just looking at the business end of the data loading. So one size certainly doesn't fit all, okay? And we use the analogy of a square peg round hole, and you need to use the right tool for the right job. So to start with, I'll talk about the Oracle solutions, and of course, I'll mention More4Apps. And the first one on the list is what I would term the behemoth, and that's FBDI. Now, FBDI is there since the inception of Fusion Cloud. I first saw it around 2016 at an open world, and Oracle talked about this as being the answer to all the spreadsheet integrations ever required. And as you probably know, it does have purposes, but it certainly isn't the answer to everything. And we know that because we look at how much work it takes to get data in using FBDI. Now, system integrators, technical people, you can live with this sometimes. It is useful. You know the steps from downloading the template through to linking the different sections together. But you have issues where it just doesn't really make it easy for you. So the biggest problem of all is this reconciliation. So you might get the data into the system, but then it gives you a report, and you've got to somehow tie that report back into the source data that you started with in Excel and rebuild and reload it again. Along with that, you can't just download data. To give you an example, so for example, you're creating a customer or a supplier, you can't take an existing one out of the ERP, put it into into FBDI, and then use that as your template for building others. So it really is a technical solution, but it does support mass data entry, and it is a supported loader by Oracle. However, it's not something that you'd really give to your end users, and it's not a real-time solution. It's very much batch-driven. And just anecdotally out of the Oracle community, these are the sorts of things that are hitting people with FBDI. The first one is it is using Visual Basic. So a lot of companies are stopping that now. So you'll have ActiveX deprecation and problems like that within organizations. But another example here from Will Mead says it's, if not a complete disaster. So this is end users trying to use it. Will is a programmer and he's working with his team to try and get this data in. So really what should be an end user task, they're using FBDI for. The next one I'm a bit blunt and you could say even slightly mean about, but this is how I feel about ADFdi, because every time I go to use it, something doesn't go right. It tends to break. You might have a situation where it works perfectly in a certain PC and it works fine for you. Fine, stick with it if it's doing just what you need. But I've found that with ADFdi, it just seems to break. I have one quote from one customer of ours that moved from using ADFdi to using our GL integration. They said, whoever built this has never used it in vain. And that came straight from them. And I actually agree with that comment. As far as a process flow goes, it's not too bad. It's more the UI in Excel that's the issue. It does support some mass data entry. It depends on the data element. It can be anything from 100 records up to 10,000, depending what you're playing with. It's not a bad tool for dealing with interface errors, but it sort of has some real-time validation depending on what you're doing. And it does sort of have lists of values with some fields. It's more of an issue of it tends to break. There is the linking of different sections if you're dealing with complex data elements. So it's still a secured, supported solution from Oracle, but it is one that Oracle are looking at deprecating. They certainly aren't creating any more ADFDIs. And just looking at GL as an example, it misses things like DFFs are hard to work with. You've got file attachments as another thing that's missing. So a lot of people want that. We've provided that in our software. Journal import visibility. So you're going between one UI to another UI all the time. So it's not just all in the spreadsheet. And then there's other issues around 64-bit Excel and things like that. If we look at the other ones that really hit this one, is that there's quite a lot of columns on this worksheet, depending what you're using, be it work definitions or GL, etc. You cannot customize it. Well, you can try, and I have successfully got it working for one or two things, but I wouldn't recommend it. And Oracle say it's not advisable, and they actually say it's not supported if you do it. So it's a very difficult tool to really give to end users in a nice, simple format where they just see the data that they want. The tool that I do like that Oracle has, especially as a consultant, rather than for end users, is what I term the basic fixer, which is VBCS, or VBFAF is the other term that you'll hear. And that's the Excel add-in that Oracle provide that can talk to REST services. And this is the most advanced solution that they've got, and it works only with REST endpoints. So if you're trying to use SOAP, you cannot use this solution. Oracle still have quite a few SOAP services, especially around the suppliers and customers areas. And we know anecdotally internally that we've moved from using REST for a couple of our integrators back to the SOAP because it's got more functionality. And we'll move back to REST when Oracle provide the additional functionality. So with this, it's more of a two-step thing. You actually have to define what you're going to build and what you're going to give to people to use or use yourself. So it's got a designer. Oracle claim it's no coding. I've built stuff with this. If you don't know how to code, then you'll struggle to build anything with this. It really is a technical tool for someone to learn how to build the different integrations. It does support mass data entry to a point. It depends on the data set you're working with. So if it's single row type data, yeah, you can use it quite effectively. It depends on how it batches the data and things like that. So there's some tweaks you can make in order to get that working. It is, again, a secure connection. Of course, it's using REST, and it's a nice Excel add-in that doesn't have VBA. However, it does struggle with having all the data in one worksheet. So for example, if you deal with a blanket purchase agreement, you'll have your PO header and lines on one worksheet, and then the breaks will be on another worksheet, unless you denormalize everything, and that's difficult for end users to work with. The other thing is, quite often, if the download source is slightly different from the upload source, you'll need another worksheet for that. And if you want to submit an import, so if the interface like Blankets uses an interface table, you'll need another worksheet to submit the import, or you have to do it from within Oracle's core apps. So you can see it's sort of a technical solution still, rather than end user solution, although you could get away with it with an end user solution as well. to a point, and that's for very simple data entry requirements. So with the VBCS, the user opens the template. You can customize the columns and where they want to go. That's at a designer stage, not an end user stage, so the end users cannot do that. You link your worksheets and you upload them. And if it's an API that doesn't go to the interface table, you will get some error messaging back. And if you put in some additional programming, you can build list of values as well. The key thing is that once you build this, you have to support it, okay? Or someone has to support it. And it doesn't always meet expectations. So these are some of the comments that we get. And I think the first one's the real key one. Alex does a lot of posting on the community. And quite often when someone's working with, I need to do this data, I need to do that data, he says, hey, go and look at VBCS. It's your no code option. You can do everything you want sort of attitude. However, when it comes to push, he goes, oh, yes, you can, but I don't know that REST service, so I can't help you with that. So you're left in the lurch and you've got to rely on the community to help you with that. So that's where I found that, yes, Oracle support the development tool, but they don't actually support you. And you've got to reach out to other consultants and hope that they've got something that can work for you, and hope that there's something that will work. So we've got examples there from other people. It's saying about, hey, I can't get it doing this, I can't get it doing that. And then we've got one there on the right-hand side, and it actually, the person just calls it out. It's not user-friendly enough for your business users. And so that's a key part of what we're talking about here, is the software has to be friendly for business users in order for them to take it on and them to want to use it. If we look at what I term the all-rounder, which is more for apps, and this comes from an ethos of the company ownership, the focus, the vision, that we wanted to build tools that end users could use. So as consultants, and all of us that started the company were consultants, we were used to dealing with end users, and we wanted to leave them something that they could use. And that's the key part about more for apps, leaving something that they could use. And from a consultant's point of view, we're seeing that there's a little bit of turnover where some companies done an implementation, yet another company has been pulled in to do the remediation. If you can leave something that's really good for your end users, then the chances of that second stage happening are a lot lower because you've got buy-in. So looking at the right tool for the right job means that you're less likely to lose your customers because you're going to provide them with what they need at any point in time to keep going forward, and then you come back on board. And that's sort of where we see more for apps fit into this, because we've made this a solution that just uses one worksheet per the integration. So you'll have your entire supplier, customer, blanket agreement, whatever in one worksheet. You can download your data out of Oracle into it. It's in the right format. It's ready for you to work with. You can download multiple of something, so multiple purchase orders as an example, or requisitions or projects into one worksheet. You can also download, in some examples, a where used type thing. So give me all the structures that have this item as an example. You can also pull in data from other sources. So you could create a BI report that's in the More for Apps format, and that then populates the worksheet. Or it could be coming from a third-party system. You might have an external engineering system, and you want to bring your items and your bills and materials in. Or it could be a third-party web-based store where you want to bring in your different customers or suppliers, etc. The upload happens all within the worksheet as well. So you don't have to have a separate worksheet for uploading. And what we do is we validate the data in the worksheet, and then we'll call Oracle's web service, be it SOAP or REST. So we'll work with both SOAP and REST services. And then any issue that we find before it hits those web services, we'll give you pinpoint validation in the worksheet. There's some we won't trap. We'll get Oracle's error message, and if it doesn't make sense, we'll turn it to something that does make sense. But either way, we're going to give you a level of detail where you can quickly and easily fix the issue. We'll also provide the user entry forms in our templates. So that means if you wanted to search, say, by an item or supplier or whatever, we'll give a user form for that entire data selection area. So if it would be the headers or the lines or whatever, you open a form and it'll give you all that information, and you can input your data that way. You can select categories. We're talking to the database. This is a live connection, very similar to how VBCS and ADFdi are live connections. What's really important is that you can customize and you can save your layouts. You don't need everything in an item master. There's 300 odd attributes. your end users are probably wanting about 15 to 30 attributes. You can make the template that size. They can move columns around. We don't stop them doing that. You can use Excel formulas. We have a defaulting function, so you can make the formula in the default row and it will populate it all the way down. For example, defaulting a date or taking a value from another column and then adding a factor to it, to the column that you're entering data in. So there's all those sorts of things as well. And having it all in the one worksheet and in a user-friendly format means the end users do not struggle with these tools. Okay, it's very easy for them to get their heads around. And if you're coming from an EBS environment, you can use our EBS wizards to clean up the data, pull the data from EBS, and then use our cloud tools to then bring the data in to Fusion Cloud as well. So if the user knows how to use our EBS tools, using the cloud ones, although it's a slightly different technology, is really easy for them. I've just dealt with one yesterday that used our software with EBS. I watched them use our cloud software. They didn't need training. The menu was slightly different, but they really got it. So if you're in that situation, it's really helpful too. So there's probably a bit of a so what? So you're saying you're the all-rounder. So what's the difference? Well, from a technical point of view, as a consultant, it may not worry you too much, but it would get annoying. But from an end user's point of view, if you delivered them FBDI as their solution, they would be a bit upset because they've got 7 minutes just to load one BPA, and that's a BPA using FBDI, going through and putting in the different data sets, linking the columns, having to go back to the UI to find some fields, etc. VBCS is a bit better because you can put some lists of values on, and we're saying that's a good VBCS rather than the bare bones VBCS. But even then, Morpher apps took a minute. It's 7 times faster. So even as a consultant, you might want to use that rather than using FBDI. It will save you a lot of hassle, especially with data errors, items that don't exist, all those sorts of things. And that's great in utopia when all the data is good. Now, in the situation where the data isn't good, we run into a situation where you have to reload the data using FBDI. VBCS, you have to figure out where the data is a little bit and then try and fix it and load it again. And you're using the 4 different templates because it's a blanket just to get the data in. With Morpher apps, it added 20 seconds to the job. So you can see that huge difference. If data is perfect, less so of a win. But if it's not perfect, it's just huge difference there. It's just massive. If we look at supply creation, FBDI supply creation, I did this test myself. I felt like throwing my computer out the window in the end, so I don't know how you consultants do it, but it's horrific if you've got 25 suppliers, 14 classifications, etc., 3 sections of data. There's 7 worksheets. You have to run FBDI 7 times, and it takes nearly an hour. You're talking 50 minutes just to load 25 suppliers till you get your processes exactly right, and that's assuming there's no errors. With Morpher apps, it was a 4-minute process. So you can see how easy it is for people to use Morpher apps, and you can see if you're trying to keep clients post go live, why you'd want to give them a solution like this, because the frustration levels will be so much lower. I mean, suppliers, customers, etc., are very complex data areas, and giving them something really complicated like FBDI isn't really a solution for them. And they'll be looking at other consulting companies and people to help them out because what you've delivered isn't really fit for purpose. So I'll give some real lessons that we've learned here. A power utility company, they went live with FBDI, ADFdi, recommended by the SI. The business users were concerned about ease of use, as in most of them didn't use it. It was poorly built, not documented, and they ended up pulling in Morpher apps and said, hey, we need this to work. We're going live very shortly. And sure enough, the users loved the project's tools. Blankets could be done. They got buy-in. So the consulting company didn't look good, but the company using them looked great because they provided their users with what they wanted. Another one was a local county or a local council. They have a lot of AR invoices, a lot of GL, etc. They were told that we'd use Oracle's products. They're cost-free, they're cost-neutral, sorry, they're free. They had 6 months to deliver Excel-based solutions. What was delivered just wasn't good enough. End users just were not happy at all, and it caused a lot of stress with the project. Suppliers were half built. AR invoices, you could only ever do 12 invoices at once, and AR receipt just wasn't usable. They had also 64-bit Excel issues, just issue upon issue. We were asked, can we do this? And we had less than 6 weeks before go live, and we provided them with everything they needed. So another win for more for apps, but more importantly, that was the consulting company that didn't look good, and I don't think they'll get future business with this organization. Steve, I'll let you talk about this one.
Yeah, David, thank you. So David summarized just two customer wins where the user came out ahead, and so did the consultant because they ended up providing the right solution and keeping their client happy. In this situation, we had a partner, one of our best partners, that really had some time savings. So if you use our tool, and we do make our tools available to partners at a no cost or low cost option, but in this case, it's a $1.5 billion Oracle partner, global company working with a utility company that's about $1 billion as well. And they were migrating project data, massive amounts of project data at Oracle Cloud ERP. And they were able to create 120 templates using our tool where there was no FBDI template to transfer project templates into EBS. So we had a tool that FBDI didn't have. And in this case, we ended up saving the consultant initially about 40% time savings that they could use or bill on other more important or more pertinent tasks. And in the future, because they already have our templates built, they'll save 60% time in this case. So this is just a microcosm of a piece of a project where not only did they save time, but they're able to transfer the data more accurately and better for the client. So the client was happy, the consultant was happy with the time savings, and everybody wins in that case. So the tool is available. David, next slide, I think.
Yeah. So just as summary comparison, just to give you, our rundown on things, and it really comes back to that thinking of making sure you're using the right tool for the right job. Obviously, not the square peg round hole scenario. We're not saying more for apps is the answer to everything. However, we feel it's got a really good place in the Oracle ecosystem, and it's a really good way for you to get additional buy-in from your clients and to keep your clients by giving them decent solutions where more for apps fits. So if we look at the different tools that we've talked about, I called us the all-rounder because that's where I see us fitting. We don't promise to do everything. We don't cover all the different areas in Oracle. We cover the main ones. We're really good for BAU, migrations, data cleanup. We'll do high volume and low volume. It's intuitive, it's flexible, and it supports upload and download. And being supported means you don't have to support the product. So there's nothing worse than being on a project. You're trying to move on to the next thing, and someone's coming back to you with something that you built for them, and you're having to waste time on that and explain to the client and the manager why the project's been delayed because you keep getting pulled sideways. With more for apps, that doesn't happen because we support it. FBDI, the behemoth, look, this really does have a place, especially for those really large volumes. I'd use this if I'm dealing with million-plus records, etc. like that. It also has a lot of different options for data integrations. So it's still there. It's still key product to use. I really try and stick away doing anything for end users with it unless it's really simple. It doesn't have download capabilities, but you may have to build something to help provide data for it if you're trying to do updates. And that validation reconciliation just isn't great. So you can try and do things on top to make it better, but I'd really just try and use that for the high volume integrations that you're trying to do. ADFdi, like I say, I do look at this as the last resort, although if the wind's blowing in the right direction and everything's going well and it's working, then stick with it, but don't touch it sort of attitude. It's inflexible, it limits Excel's functionalities, just doing simple undo doesn't work, and it tends to crash. So use it when there's no other alternative would be my suggestion with ADFdi. VBCS, look, I do like this tool. The reason I like this is that if you as a consultant have found that there's a data problem in an area and there's a REST service, there's a chance you can build something out with this to quickly and easily fix data. That's where I really see a win with this product for consultants. And also for building out data sets that as part of setup and things like that, you could use this as a tool just to get some, say, list of buyers put into the system, things like that. It has some basic validation that's tricky to use, but you may get away with it for some simple jobs for end users. And that's basically it as far as the comparison goes. But you need to know there's more options than just Oracle out there. And as per my case studies that I've shown and what Steve talked about, Oracle doesn't have the answer to everything. And because something's in quote free doesn't necessarily mean it is. Steve, I'll pass it to you for the partner program benefits.
Yeah, just a little explanation on the partner program. We do offer Oracle partners access to our software. Our goal is to help accelerate your ERP implementation, reduce project risk, and help you sustain post-project success. So we have several benefits available to Oracle partners. The first thing is we can help you start your first project with us for free. We'll provide you free access to our software for your first project. We'll help you organize templates or build templates and provide consulting support as well. As a first step, if anybody is interested, I will encourage you to download our software for free. We'll help you install it and activate licenses. There will be a follow-up email to this webinar that will contain the recording and a link to our community where you can download free software. And we'll provide you free training on how to use the tool. It doesn't take very long. Within less than an hour, you'll be up and running and know just about 90% of every feature benefit that you'll need to know. There's a self-guided demo that if you wanted to take a look at the tool yourself, you can. You'll have a link available to that as well. And as I mentioned, the 1-2 punch to really get started with us is download the software, schedule some training with me. You'll have my email address and a follow-up email to this webinar, and I'm happy to engage with you and answer any questions. There are also opportunities for referral fees and have your organization make a little bit of extra money for the project. Normally, it's enough money to provide some client appreciation, employee appreciation, and some celebration. You won't get rich, but you'll enjoy the benefits and you'll have happier customers as well. We do have all of these areas covered for the Cloud ERP Toolbox. You can see projects, finance, procurement, and product definition. We do have complete product guides available on our website, as well as this type of information in this chart as well. Next slide, please. Now we're in the area for Q&A. So thank you, those of you that have stayed with us. We're happy to entertain your questions. And Stephanie, if we have any questions queued up from the
Yeah.
chat, happy to have you introduce those.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, if you have any questions, just add them in that little Q&A box on like the bottom bar. But we do have a few, so I will pass them along. So here we go. When shouldn't you use more for apps?
I would say that again, those absolutely massive data volumes, but also we don't have integrations for everything. So I wouldn't use it for those because you can't. But those would be the two scenarios when I'd say don't use more for apps. The other one would be when the data volumes are so small, it's not worth it. So just use the UI.
So this kind of piggybacks off of that. Does more for apps have a data limit?
No, we don't have a data limit. However, I would say that from our experience, that data loading that takes a long time, say that 100,000 plus records, you can run into network glitches and you will get the web service once in a while not handling that. That's more of an Oracle issue and network issue than us. It doesn't always happen, but I would still suggest that you break data loads into smaller sets, that sort of 10,000, 20,000 sort of limits at a time, just so you know where your data's got to and things like that. It's more of a making sure you don't hit that sort of problem.
Okay, great. And David, I know you touched on this a little bit, talking about a migration, but do you have tools for EBS?
Yes, so I mentioned that earlier. We've got 40 different products in the EBS suite. They're all on our website as well. It's quite an extensive range there because we've been playing in that market space for such a long time. And that's all part of the partner program as well.
Yeah. And I think this kind of is self-explanatory. Can partners use your software for EBS and cloud projects?
Yes, totally.
Yes, we make both tool sets available, especially useful if they're doing an EBS to cloud conversion or migration as well. So,
Okay, great. Yeah, that's all the questions that we have now. But if you ever have any questions that pop up, like Steve said, I will send out his email just so that you can, reach out to him, ask any questions. But yeah, so before our hosts make their final remarks, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. And like I said, you'll get that email probably by the end of the week. So just keep an eye out for that, okay? David, Steve, any parting words?
David, I'll let you go.
Just keep your customers happy and they'll keep employing you.
Yeah.
And thank you for attending. I just encourage you to engage with us. It basically costs you nothing but a little bit of your time to invest, and we appreciate your attendance. Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Thank you, David, and thank you, Steve.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care, team.